If you couldn't tell by the title, I finally saw Invincible. Why did it take so long? Well, the show came out while I was still in school. I'm now out of school and have a ton of student debt, so if you could like and share this video and maybe hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, it would be highly appreciated. It would also let me know you want more topics like Invincible discussed, regardless of how late I may be to the party. Just a couple things I want to get out of the way first is how stacked the cast is. It is honestly ridiculous hearing so many iconic voices in one single show, and it's shows like this that display why superhero stories are best told in the form of animation. Like comics, most of the animation is drawn, and you just can't capture the same magic of bringing a story or property from page to screen in any other form. The best element to this show is definitely the writing. Just the unpredictability alone. When was the last time we saw a show where we actually had to be concerned for each and every character that we meet? Even Mark himself, I mean, Invincible is a title that could still work for this show even if the main protagonist did die. Someone else could take on the mantle, or it could just represent the power that many superpowered beings hold. This show manages to make you feel concerned for everyone, and that is an incredible feat to accomplish. And this is all done in the first episode of the show. I don't think anyone saw the slaughtering of the Guardians of the Globe, or Omniman being the main villain of the season coming. It's just top tier storytelling and incredible writing. The animation manages to bring the writing justice as well. Even though it's very noticeable that the show had a limited budget, I think the show did everything in its power to be great with the resources they had, and it definitely succeeded. Now onto a subject that is touched on very heavily, both visually and verbally, which is power. The opening to the show, the first shot we see displays the power that we as people, and more specifically Americans, think we hold. All of our weapons, guns, tanks, explosives, America's money are on display, along with significant monuments and landmarks throughout the show, the massive buildings we've built, how far we've come as a society and civilization. But when other beings that aren't human, or who maybe are but are capable of things most aren't, are showcased, that's when we see true power. All of the advancements and the progress that the human race has made is nothing compared to what these beings can do. And the main example of that, of course, is Omniman. More on him in a moment. Another significant element of the show is that of humanity. It's something that is showcased in every way. Relationships, vulnerability, emotions, our care for the ones closest to us over ourselves. And the show even makes us as the viewer think about our own humanity. It's a brutal show and the violence is an important element. It may irk us, it may satisfy us, but above all it makes you feel something. And that's the biggest reminder of all, that we are human. We have emotions. We have breaking points. Our trust can be earned, but it can also be broken. We aren't androids or gods. We are all the same and we are stronger together than we are apart. Hell, even the characters that are human, but have superpowers, they are the same as ordinary people. Those powers can be compared to money because in this world, money is power. But in a lot of cases, money can be corruption. Much like power or superpowers can be corruption. That feeling of being strong in every way is what we all strive for. But sometimes it can change people for the worse, which is why it makes sense that there are as many villains as there are heroes. The feeling of vulnerability is natural. It's human. And it's important to allow that feeling in at times. It keeps us all grounded. It's the reason we care about another human's life. Without it, you get something like Omni-Man, a cold-blooded killer. But what makes Omni-Man a super interesting character to me are the glimpses of humanity we see. It's not how brutal, remorseless, and cold-blooded he is. I think those are elements that make him a terrifying villain. But the tidbits we get of him trying to ignore the little bit of humanity he may have acquired in his 20 years on Earth, that's what makes him a great character. There's a slight internal struggle inside of him, which sure is only really displayed with Debbie and Mark, mostly Mark in the final episode of the show when his father has him near death, but this line struck a chord for a reason.
What will you have after 500 years?
You, Dad. I still have you.
And that's definitely not the Vitramite in him. This is probably the best evil Superman type villain there's ever been. And that's because you have no choice but to despise this guy. Even if he is voiced by J.K. Simmons, he's a remorseless killer who cares about nothing more than his mission, and that is to weed out the weak in the entire galaxy. It's a twisted perspective, but obviously one ingrained in every Viltrumite's mind. And the only Viltrumite we know for sure doesn't think like Omniman is obviously Mark. Of course, starts the season with no powers, and we see that is all he wants until he gets them. That's something brought up multiple times throughout the season.
I'm a terrible friend and a worse boyfriend because I'm gonna fail my last year of high school because I got everything I ever wanted and I messed it all up.
The line's not only about his powers, but also his relationship with Amber. Which these are two things that repeatedly interfere with one another. Obviously, she knew Mark was invincible for months before he revealed himself to her. She feels he doesn't trust her, and at least didn't, which leads her to not trusting him. Then she finally, thankfully, comes back around after seeing him get his shit kicked in by his father. But the most important thing about Mark is that he's not his father. He's not a Viltrumite. He may have the DNA to say he is, but Earth is his home, and like his mom, he is human. The final battle between Invincible and Omniman, which I've touched on multiple times already, showcases this perfectly. And Mark got his ass kicked all season, but obviously nothing was on this level. I think it was important for him to take the amount of punishment he did throughout the season. He's still adjusting to his power set, and I know he's more powerful than he's currently aware of, which is going to make next season even more interesting. But with all the power he already does have, and that which he will possess, it's important that he remembers this. The feeling of vulnerability. His own father had him at his most vulnerable, near death, and he never gave up because he knows what it is to be human. He believes in the human race, that we can be better, which much like him, I hope we can. Over the years, humanity has improved in many ways, but declined in just as many. It's time we improve and only improve. Take 10 steps forward and no steps back. Anyway, back to the show. I'm sure you've heard plenty about it, and I've basically said my piece. I think it's a masterpiece of a show with the best twist villain I've ever seen. The cast is phenomenal. I care about most of the important characters, and I never know who will die and who will live. The writing and world building is off the charts. And I think the animation will only get better because I'm sure the show will get a much bigger budget for season 2. And the animation is already great for most of the show. There's just moments you can tell it's lacking more of a budget in that department. I'm glad I finally got around to watching it. It's 8 episodes that were put to excellent use. And if you somehow haven't seen it and you're watching this video for some reason, then I'd highly recommend you go watch it. As I said earlier, I know I'm extremely late to the party, obviously, for this show, because this was like 5 months ago. This year's been kind of wild, so I appreciate all of you guys that do support the channel. Continue to show your support and watch these videos. Thank you so much for watching this one. Please leave a like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed. Each and every one of you are always appreciated. So don't forget your humanity, it's important. I'll see all you humans next time.